move on to our final question of the evening. Time is running away with us, and the final question is from Mark Taylor. Mark Taylor, please.
Yes. Why does the Remain campaign not understand the strength of feeling of those who simply want self-governance returned to the UK? They, like me in the Midlands and beyond, that they're not Little Englanders, they're not haters of immigrants, but they're rational, reasonable people who simply want to have their lives not governed by European directives.
Harry Corbyn.
The value of the single market, the zero tariff free area for jobs in the West Midlands. And if you're going to have a zero tariff free area, which creates a lot of jobs and investment in the West Midlands, then you've got to agree on things like the quality of the pottery that comes out of the potteries with our trading partners. And so we need to have a seat around the table to decide those qualities, rather than have it dictated to us here in the West Midlands.
The question was very much about sovereignty.
Well, I'm just talking about the importance of democracy to us having a seat at the table when we're discussing those kinds of things.
Gisa Stewart,
I just don't accept.
We're democratically engaged in discussing it with democratically elected people like Bill.
It's non-democratic. We're stuck with them.
How is it more democratic to have no voice there?
I do not accept that there is a trade-off between trade and democracy. I think we've got a situation of 28 countries. Only 3.5% of the officials in the Commission now are British. We are consistently We are consistently outvoted. We have got a voting rate of 12%. And what is happening, because this is only a once-in-a-lifetime chance for the next generation, I think you should be able to remove those politicians who make decisions on your behalf. And at the moment, you can't do that.
You can.
I think the traditional sovereignty democracy argument is a perfectly valid argument, and I respect you for making it. What I would say is, come back on this point, is that the sovereignty you're suggesting is the sovereignty of the man in the desert. It's the sovereignty of a court. It's the sovereignty. It's the sovereignty of a court. It's about Digby. It's also about respect and listening to opinions.
So
it's about
and not patronising people, Tristan.
No, Digby, you're an unelected parliamentarian.
It's the sovereignty of a cork bobbing on the ocean. There are big challenges out there, and our argument is that the UK's influence and power and its great leadership role in democracy is magnified through our membership of the European Union.
We've got huge piles of rubbish from over here. I'm going to turn to one of those that's crying rubbish in a moment after we've heard from the lady in the middle in the cream jacket. And yes, you please, madam.
Hi, yeah, I think the point of sovereignty is valid, but have you not got to consider the other side, which is a moral argument of Europe is going through a difficult time, and we are a relatively more stable economy on the whole. Do we not have a moral obligation that we're looking very inward at the moment in terms of sovereignty when we should be considering the whole of the EU as well?
Bill Etheridge.
We have a responsibility to be good neighbours, and we can best do that by being what we've always been, which is a beacon of freedom and democracy. We've done this for centuries, and the best way to go about it is to ignore the people who seek to scare us, the people who seek to trade off money for freedom. I'm sorry, it's not for sale. Our freedom is not for sale. And we wish to be a sovereign, independent country again, and all of these senior politicians trying to sell us down the river and telling us that what we have is not worth anything, and we're going to be a small, irrelevant country, talking our country down. Shame upon them.
We have democratically chosen to pool our sovereignty in lots of ways. NATO was mentioned. That is another classic example of where we have pooled our sovereignty, and if any of those members are invaded, we are on the hook for helping them.
I'd like to turn to the gentleman. Digby Jones, I'd just like to turn to the gentleman. Sorry, sir, we can't hear you because we haven't got a microphone. Can we turn to the gentleman in the middle row here in the check shirt, please?
I've heard a lot about your trade, you're saying your potteries, we've heard about democracy and everything. it's not a one-way battle. It's not Britain has to trade them. They also have to trade with us. When we leave, I can't see the German manufacturers of automobiles, BMW, Volkswagen, Mercedes, not going knocking on Angela Merkel's door saying, we need to trade with them. Secondly, as for democracy, when Cameron went to Europe to make a negotiation, if it was a democracy, why did it take him so long to get such little? They are not...
So, Jason, the point is trade will not stop if we leave the EU. Jason Moore.
The issue I've got is, throughout this whole process, what we've seen is politicians squabbling. And we haven't actually seen the real root arguments of what it is to leave and what it is to remain. You know, and that's a real shame.
Well, address that now.
That's a real shame.
Address that now.
And actually, the lady over there who shouted out 70 years of peace, I think you're absolutely spot on. And there's something else as well. The European Union was a democratic, capitalistic, peaceful home. When the lid came off the Soviet tyranny, it was a home for them as well. And not a Yugoslavia, not in Iraq, not a Libya. And the tragedy of this, which is why I'm a reluctant leaver, but I wish this place could reform, and it won't. The problem is, it's a business model that works brilliantly for a few countries in the 20th century, and your grandchildren are what this vote's about, and that's about the business model for in 50 years' time. And if they carry on looking backwards with the application of rules, instead of looking forwards to the application of rules, believe me, our grandchildren can have a really cold time.
Digby Jones, you've heard quite a lot from him. I just want to take a point from the gentleman here in the back row, please. You, to the back.
I'm a consultant neurologist, a brain doctor. I work at the QE. I'm also a Labour Party member, and I'm mystified why Gisela is so pro-leaving. I mean, you represent one of the biggest hospitals in Europe, one of the biggest universities in Europe. And, you know, people like me are the innovators. I do clinical trials. Why are you going to destroy that? why?
Well, just respond briefly to that, please.
I think you should switch.
Can I just say that the doctors at the QE and at university will tell me that the Clinical Trials Directive has been disastrous for research at the universities.
Speak to Paul Nurse, okay?
No.
FRS. Speak to the 13 Nobel laureates yesterday. How many Nobel laureates have you got pro-Brexit?
Would you like me to answer
just let Gisela Stewart respond.
I changed because I tried to negotiate a change. I spent 15 months in Brussels trying to get a change. This institution refuses to change and adapt for the 21st century. And if you talk to the clinical research one of the big things about the medical MHRA was very good at dealing with new trials. They destroyed a branch of British industry because it can't change and it's destroying things. That's why I've changed.
Okay. And I would just like to go back to the gentleman who put the question in the first place. Just for your response, you put the question in the first place.
Okay. The essence of my question, or what I believe will happen, is that people, you can have as many arguments and debates as we are doing on immigration, trade, whatever. The essence of this debate and how people will vote, I think, next week, will be who governs their lives, who makes the decisions that affects their lives. And you guys are underestimating that issue. You really are. You know what? The Leave will be honest.